The Story of Blonde, 2022. As a young girl, Norma Jean Mortensen grows up raised by her mentally unstable mother Gladys. On her 7th birthday in 1933, she is given a framed picture of a man Gladys claims is her father. Later that night, a fire breaks out in the Hollywood Hills, and Gladys drives Norma Jean up there, claiming that her father lives there, but is forced to go back home at the orders of the police. An enraged Gladys tries to drown Norma Jean in the bathtub when she asks about her father, but lets her go. Norma Jean escapes to her neighbor's house, who promises she will be fine. A few days later, Norma Jean is sent to a foster home, while Gladys is admitted to a mental hospital, having been declared unfit to raise a child. By the 1940s, Norma Jean becomes a pin-up girl under the staged name of Marilyn Monroe, appearing on magazine covers and calendars. She decides to try acting, and, in 1950, auditions for the role of Nell in Don't Bother to Knock. The audition goes poorly after she breaks down and leaves in tears, but impresses the casting director enough to give her the part. As her acting career steadily rises, she meets Charles Cass Chaplin Jr. and Edward G. Eddie Robinson Jr., with whom she begins a polyamorous relationship. Norma Jean gets her breakout role in 1953 with Niagara, but after she is spotted in public with Cass and Eddie, she is told by a studio head to limit her appearances with them in public, which upsets her, because she feels like her persona of Marilyn is just a role and not her true self. Norma Jean becomes pregnant, much to her delight, but eventually decides to have an abortion out of fear that the child might inherit Gladys's mental issues. However, on the day of the appointment, she changes her mind, but it is too late. She later meets Joe DiMaggio, a retired athlete who sympathizes with her when she expresses her desire to leave Hollywood and become a more serious actress in New York City. As she films Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, she receives a letter from a man claiming to be her father. Norma Jean feels disconnected from her on-screen performance at the film's premiere, saying it is not her. She returns to her hotel room, having been told that someone is waiting for her. Expecting it to be her father, she instead finds Joe, who asks to marry her, which she accepts reluctantly. Norma Jean and Joe's marriage sours when Cass and Eddie give Joe some nude publicity pictures of her, which enrages Joe so much that he hits her and demands that she refuse to do the 7-year itch out of principle. However, she still goes through with filming, doing the famous publicity stunt with a white dress. When she gets home, a drunken Joe screams and gets physically violent with her. She divorces him shortly after. In 1955, Norma Jean auditions for the Broadway play Magda, written by renowned playwright Arthur Miller. During a read-through, her performance impresses everyone but Arthur. He eventually warms up to her when she gives him some insightful character analysis. Norma Jean and Arthur marry and move to Maine, where she lives a happy life with him and gets pregnant. However, when walking on the beach one day, she trips and miscarries. Distraught, she returns to acting soon after. While filming Some Like It Hot, Norma Jean becomes more uncontrollable. She is overwhelmed by the constant press attention, feels like she is being made a joke of, has frequent outbursts on set, especially toward director Billy Wilder, and grows increasingly distant from Arthur. To cope with her stress, she begins taking pills. By 1962, Norma Jean has become dependent on drugs and alcohol. She is approached by FBI agents while on a flight to New York, where she is taken to a hotel and has a sexual encounter with the president that quickly turns unpleasant when he sexually assaults her. Already dazed and drugged on pills, she hallucinates having another abortion and is sent back to her home in Los Angeles. She learns from Eddie on the phone that Cass has died and has left something to her, which she refuses to see at first, but is convinced by Eddie, who sends it in a package in the mail. Cass's memento turns out to be the stuffed tiger plush that she had as a child, And the package also contains a letter where he confesses that the letters that Norma Jean has been receiving, supposedly from her father, were actually from him. Shattered by the revelation, Norma Jean overdoses on barbiturates and stumbles back to her bed. As she lays dying, she has a vision of her father, portrayed as the man in the photograph that Gladys gave her on her 7th birthday, welcoming her to the afterlife